up, Code Agents? Welcome back. This time we've got Jesse and David, good friends of mine that also happen to be REO masters, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, guys, can you introduce yourselves to those people? Because I don't think everybody knows you here.
Absolutely. David, you want to start?
Sure. I'm David Golden. I've been in real estate for about 26 years. Graduated high school, went straight to real estate. It's all I've ever done. My first job in real estate was running the HUD BLB account for Prudential California Realty, where we closed 18,000 transactions in about 5 years. So I got kind of thrown to the wolves at a very young age. And from then it's always been a volume game and a numbers game for me. It was never a regular real estate kind of transaction. I didn't really do traditional sales ever. So for all these years, I've always done corporate, HUD, BLB, REO, always. So I've run a couple of Keller Williams franchises. I grew 2 offices, one to 256 agents, one to 272. I was number 3 team leader in the country back in 2006. And I had about 26 REO accounts back in the heyday. So yeah.
That's a lot, man. All right. Thank you. How about you, Jesse? Can you compete with that?
In a different level, I won't say compete. We'll go side by side. How about that?
I was just messing with you.
I mean, David's been my business partner for 10 years. So I actually got into real estate 16 years ago. And I did start in traditional, like the normal retail route. But at the time, we were talking before we started broadcasting, see the guitar behind me right over there.
Yeah.
I still wanted to be a rock star. So I was working in real estate part-time, and we did some online lead generation. And then about 2007, 2008, the wheels started coming off the real estate market, if you remember.
Yep.
And someone said, you should check out REO. I said, what's REO? What's that stand for? I don't even know. And I went to my first real estate REO conference. They said, yeah, it's really different than traditional. It's more about relationship building and who you know. And so I went to my first real estate conference for REO and just threw myself into that world and ended up making a ton of contacts, ended up selling a couple hundred REOs a year, really loving that segment of the industry. I met David Golden, who we are business partners. We're both co-founders of an REO networking group called DSPros, Default Servicing Professionals.
Nice.
And we met because our hotel rooms were literally next to each other at an REO conference. That was the only reason we are on this webinar today is because we literally kept going in and out of our hotel room door at the same time, randomly throughout this event. And finally, we just looked and said, who are you? Why do I keep seeing you?
Is that seriously how it happened?
Yeah.
It's totally how it happened.
That's meant to happen, guys.
Yep. And then we went to a birthday party for an asset manager. So I'm sure we'll dive into this, but in the world of REO, bank-owned homes, asset managers are the people who have the power to actually assign those listings to agents to sell. So your goal mainly as an REO agent on the business development side is to get to know asset managers. And after going in and out of the same hotel room, David and I had a mutual friend that invited us to a birthday party for one of these asset managers at a restaurant at this hotel. And we ended up sitting there and talking again and became friends. And that was how some of our REO journey started.
Yeah, which you guys met a lot of people now that you've introduced to me too. So it's kind of funny. So I love that. All right, let's get right into this. You guys created DSPros, so we'll talk about them at the end, right? But do me a favor, whichever one of you goes second, that person, put the link to DSPros, so if people are interested, they know where to go, because I'm going to be engaging the first person to answer this. And that's, let's get right into this. How the hell did you get started in REOs? I'm going to go with David first, only because, Jesse, you started the same time I did, which is crazy. I didn't know that you were 16 years into this business.
Yep.
That's cool. But David's been in 10 years prior to that. So David, give us a story on how you started into this whole world so that we can kind of project and say, oh, got it, I know how to do this as well.
Yeah. So what happened was I was running a Keller Williams office, and I was burnt out. Like I had a supraventricular tachycardia, which is a crazy thing where your heart goes crazy. It was going like 222 beats a minute.
Whoa.
So yeah, because I was working 16 hours as a team leader for KW. And so, when I went to the hospital and kind of did all that, after I was done with that, I kind of came back to work, and I had a 6-week-old baby boy named Isaac. And I was like, my perspective all shifted, right? I was like, I can't be doing this anymore. I have to, focus more on my family and, work less hours and whatever. So I went back into traditional sales, but the market was collapsing. So I was like, well, how do I do this? So what I did was I scouted out to who had REO accounts, like what agents in my market had REO accounts. And then I would contact their assistants and try to headhunt, like recruit their assistants. So I literally recruited one of the best REO assistants in the marketplace that was underpaid and not being treated well. So
Wow.
I told her, I said, listen, if you come with me to do this, I will let you keep all of the money from the BPOs, where before it was like half. So I just basically made her a deal. Like, I don't care about the BPO money. You keep it all. Just come with me and then sign me up for all of the BPO accounts. Literally, she came with me and she had a list of all these companies that I had no idea even existed. And she literally spent just days signing me up for every single portal that existed to get BPOs and to get REOs. And lo and behold, one day I get my first assignment from ResNet. And I forget who the bank was, but I get my first assignment through ResNet after doing a bunch of BPOs that I never did. I did one BPO my entire career. Like, that's
wow, man.
And I messed it up. so I never did a BPO.
Can you explain to those listening in what BPOs are? Because I know they're going to come back. So what is that?
So BPO is a broker price opinion. It's kind of like a CMA, where the bank sends you out to go look at the property, drive by it, take some photos, and come back and then run comps and put it all into their forms. And they all have their different portals where they want their stuff submitted. Okay. But I got my first REO assignment after my assistant had been doing all these signups, and then I did a good job for that client. And then, I kept getting more and more properties. And after that, I went to a conference where I was going to the conference. And before I went there, I found out who the speaker was, the keynote speaker.
Okay. And
I called her and asked her if she was free for dinner after she spoke that night. She said yes. So I went to the conference, and then, the other people that I was meeting there, other agents I was meeting during the conference, who were saying, "What are you doing later? What do you do tonight?" I'm like, "I'm going to dinner with the speaker." And they're
did she think you were trying to pick up on her or what?
No. I just told her that.
Needed to know.
No, not at all. I was offering to take her out to a nice dinner after the event, and so just trying to build relationships with the people that are important, right? I go straight to the top. That's always been my motto. Just straight to
the top. All right. Sounds like a similar story to what I've heard with other REO agents. I like that. Now let's shift over to Jesse. Jesse, how the hell did you get started? Because you started at the same time I did, and I missed the REO opportunity.
So how did you miss the REO opportunity? I know you're asking me questions, but just what were you doing at the time?
So I went all in on short sales.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I figured.
And I was like, every time I see that the way that I played it was a little different. Was I went all in on short sales, but I didn't focus on the relationships, right? And so I think you guys both definitely did, along with your other friends that had done REO, like Bjorkman, right?
Yep.
Alexson too. So Jesse, tell me how you started in REO, because we started at the same time.
Yep. So the first thing was I actually had a coach at the time who said, all your retail business you're getting, it's going to go away soon. I've been through REO cycles before. You better go start trying to get an REO account. I'm like, you're crazy. We're making good money in retail. It's 2006, 2007. You're crazy. I don't even know what REO is. That sounds terrible. What are these houses that are, they're junky houses? What am I selling? I don't get it. So they actually, through that coaching company at the time in 2007, got us the first REO account, but I still didn't pay any attention to it. Like, I had literally 1 or 2 REO listings from, at the time it was called IndyMac Bank. And an REO listing is a pretty magical thing. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this that have done REO, right? If you've done REO, you know this feeling where you literally get an email or a task through a portal and they say, here's your new listing, go sell this house. It's once at that moment, it's the easiest thing ever, because you're like, awesome, I get a new listing, right? So I got a couple listings. I thought, okay, this is interesting, but I still don't really know what I'm doing, and retail's still going on. It was about 6 months later when I finally said, okay, you know what? I get it. The market is definitely shifting. It was a lot of the same signs that people are seeing in the economy now, right? There's a reason why people are watching this webinar on how do you get REO business, because people are wondering, is it coming back again right now, right? So we started seeing these signs of what was happening in the economy. And I went to my first REO conference. Now, I had one REO account, but I really didn't know much about them. And I'm just trying to go and make friends. The advice given to me was go and make friends with as many people as possible. So I'm sitting at lunch, and you know the idea, you never eat alone. And I see this woman who's sitting there eating lunch by herself. And I walk over and said, hey, can I sit and eat lunch with you? She said, sure. And we started talking. And she turned out to be another real estate agent from about, I don't know, an hour and a half away from where I live in Southern California. And she had no REO experience either. Both of us had zero REO experience. But she looks at me and she goes, last night at the bar, I met this guy who's an asset manager for fill in the blank bank. You know, I'm happy to introduce you to him, because I had shown her all of my notes from one of the classes I went to. I was just being a nice guy. I was like, oh, you went to this session. It was really cool. They said, sign up here and sign up there. I'm just being a generally nice guy for no other reason other than that. I was just was being nice. And she's like, oh, well, thank you for sharing all these notes with me. Let me introduce you to this guy that guy, by the way, didn't know her at all, right? The next day I get a call from him. He's like, hey, I heard you're friends with so-and-so. Can you come over to our office? It was about 20 minutes from the conference in Dallas. Can you come over to our office? I want to get some paperwork taken care of and get you in our system. He didn't know I had just met her. I didn't know she had just met him, briefly. No one knew each other at all. Somehow I'm standing at this guy's desk. He's giving me a W-9 to sign, and I get my paperwork in the system. And within a day, I've got a property to sell. That was literally how it went, just from being nice to someone, sharing my notes. And that was my first account. And then I took that account, we can get more into, but that was how it started, man.
So what event did you go to? What was that?
That was the 5-star REO event, REO conference in Dallas, which is happening this year. They have said, we don't care about COVID. No, I'm kidding. They actually said, we acknowledge COVID. We acknowledge precautions. But it was kind of an interesting buzz that they're the first conference I've seen that have come out and said, we are doing our conference in September. It's in Texas. Texas does not recognize the existence of viruses, right? Sorry, anybody from Texas. I guess that's just how they roll there, right? Texas is like, we're doing what we want. And that's it. So there's an event happening in September in Texas.
All right. Now, would you say that's a good place for people listening in to start? Like, hey, go to these events, right? All right. Cool. Because somebody chimed in, Diane chimed in, says NAR offers certification classes. Those are cool. And just from experience, guys, do the REO companies or the asset managers, do they look to see if you're certified, or how does that look? Tell me.
Well, I think Diane was referring to probably doing someone asked before, Mabel asked, can we get BPO certified? So maybe that was in reference to,
got it.
BPO. I mean, NAR might offer REO certification classes. No, I don't think any asset manager ever looked at, whether you have an REO certification. They'll want to know when you're talking to them if you can talk the talk, but they rarely even ask how much experience you have, as long as you sound like you know what you're doing. Right. But David and I, if you notice, have pretty different ways of doing it. David went through what used to be called the front door and did hundreds, if not thousands, of these broker price opinions. He's basically doing appraisals but they're just not called appraisals, for a very, very low fee, right? And doing thousands of them to get his foot in the door to get his first REO listing. I went the other way, and I was like, let's just go meet people. Let's see who I can leverage through people. What we could do there. And Todd, I see Todd's got a question. So we'll come back to, there's some good questions coming in. We'll come
back to your questions. I just want to, we've got like 30 minutes, so we've got some time here.
Good.
So,
go ahead, Tristan.
Let's talk about why REO, because people are like, well, what the hell are you doing talking about REO when, like, we're not in REO world yet? So can you just touch on, Jesse, I'll go to you, and then David. REO, why now? Why talk about it right now?
Because it is such a highly leveraged relationship business that you need to start building the relationships a little early on in the game. Because when it gets flooded, at that point, like Tristan, for you, I don't know if you ever tried to get into REO, but after it got saturated, people's brains and their businesses get full and they don't need more people.
It was too late for me, yeah.
It's too late. Right now, it's a little early where they may not have need in your area. So it's about finding that sweet spot. But I'd always rather be early to something than late. right? In terms of rebuilding connections and getting there, and really securing your, you want to brand your name with a city in terms of being the person they think of in terms of mind share when they do start having more REOs in your area. So is it the highest and best use of some people's time right now? Probably not. I talk people out of it all the time. Why would you want to do REO, right? It costs money to get yourself set up, but for those that are committed, that they know that it's a highly leveraged business for entrepreneurs, that it's really systematic, then, and they have the bandwidth to do it. I mean, you got to start early to make these connections.
All right, we'll go back to cost because I want to know startup cost. Dave, what about you, man? What do you think? Why REO now?
So it's all about market share, right? And it's all about looking into the future. So I'm always kind of like the visionary, right? Like I see what's going to happen in the next year, in the next 2 years, and I want to have the REO market share when it comes back, right? If I'm an agent, I'm thinking I better have more market share because when you have the control of the listings, you have control of the market, and then you have all the buyer leads that come in for free when you have the REO stuff. So you put an REO in the market, you can get 3, 4, 5 buyer leads just from one REO. And that's where you make most of the money, by the way, is from the buy side. So it's all about control of the marketplace and having that. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, if I know this is coming, because it is, then I want to be prepared, and I want to build relationships with the people that are going to have control of who gets the properties assigned to them. I want to do it when not 100 other agents from Vegas are doing it, right? Yeah. I want to get them when their attention is like on me and pretty much no one else. Right? Because nobody else is calling them right now because there's no business. So if you start building the relationship now, over time, by the time that they start assigning properties, you're already the guy.
Yeah. All right. So guys,
or the woman for that matter.
Or the woman. Yeah, David, geez, get with the program.
It's true.
Well, you know, the funny thing with that, and I know it's the generalized term, guys, but both of you met ladies that were doing this. So that was kind of cool. Like, David, you say, hey, can I take you out to dinner just to talk and engage? And Jesse, you sat down with a lady who had it all down. So yeah. So it's a good point. So here, let's go to the questions and then go back to my questions, okay? Because we've got a set of questions on the webinar and then on Facebook as well. And then I've also got some questions. So here we're going to go to Todd's question first because I think it's important. I've been doing REOs for the last 12 years with one servicing company. What would you suggest to increase my business volume? I'm going to step in, go to DSPros. That's why we put the link there. That's number one. 100% go to DSPros. And then next, Jesse, David, what do you have to say on that?
So
go for it, David.
Yeah. So what I'll say, this is exactly how I built my business, right? So it all goes back to this question. Like, I have one account. What do I do to get more accounts? Well, when I set up that meeting with the speaker, right, and I was meeting other agents in the conference, they were asking me, well, can I come to the dinner with you? And I called her and I said, hey, do you mind if I have another agent come or a couple of them? No, fine, bring whoever you want. Cool. So next thing you know, my private one-on-one dinner with the speaker is now a big round table in a private room at a steakhouse. Right. And so I'm the guy who
did you pay for it, or who paid for it?
We all split it. We all just put our cards and split it. So what happened was I became the authority because I'm the one who set up the meeting. So everybody kind of looked at me like, oh, like, thanks, David, for getting us this hookup. Right. I basically helped them get that account. So then what I asked in return was, okay, guys, what accounts do you have? Right. And how can I get those accounts? So then my group of 6 or 7 or whatever it was at dinner, each of them had 1 or 2 REO accounts, right? So then we started saying, okay, well, let's set up a luncheon at your clients, you know, at the company that you're with. Let's set up a lunch where we go host a lunch at their office, and then they would set up the lunch. We would fly in, and then they would introduce me, and then I would get the account, right?
Dude, okay, who from that initial meeting that you're talking about do I know? Anybody?
Oh man. I don't even know.
Or
I don't even remember exactly who was there, honestly.
Were you that drunk? Damn it.
Probably.
All right, well,
it was a long time ago, man. Like, it's a long time ago.
I love it. All right.
But that's how I did it, right? I was like, I found other agents that had accounts, and we would trade accounts with each other, basically. Like, I'll hook you up with mine, you hook me up with yours, because we're not.
I love that, dude. It goes back to what you both said at the beginning. It's these relationships, right? And I completely didn't approach it that way from the same time that Jesse and I started. I just didn't.
I'm remembering. So it was Luigi Caprio, it was Dave Robles, it was Christina Nguyen, it was Jesse, it was the original REO tour group, Orlando Powell from Dallas. Who else was a part of that group? It was
Andrew Wilson, Orange County.
Gantry Wilson in Huntington Beach.
Oh, dude.
Right
Yeah, I know Gantry. He
Yeah.
was in that?
Yeah. That was our original crew. We called ourselves REO Tour Group, and we branded ourselves as that. And we would all travel together to different accounts.
All right. I love it. All right. So,
And someone just asked, let's do a point of clarification for Diane, was asking, when you talk accounts, are you talking about asset managers? So no, an account is like either a servicer or a bank, or they have some middlemen that they're called outsourcers, that are companies they hire to handle selling off their bank-owned homes, their foreclosures. So when we talk an account, it's actually like a whole, there's many, many asset managers that work for each account. And you got to check with each company these days to see the rules, because the rules changed over time. Some companies will still let you bring in lunch to their office. Some companies will let them go out to lunch with you. Some companies say, we don't do anything, right? So you've got to know the rules, and that landscape changed significantly from 2008 through, the 5 years of the heyday of REO. Those rules changed a lot. And you always want to make sure that you're not doing something to get yourself in trouble. You're playing by the rules of your company. At the same time, your goal is always to, how do you make connections while still respecting whatever the rules are?
all right. A lot of questions coming in, guys, but one of them, 2, 3, 4 spread out here.
Yep.
What is DSPros and how does it fit into this, so that we can answer that and then move on?
So basically, when I was talking about the REO Tour Group, right? We basically, Jesse and I were the ones that were really running it, right? Mm-hmm. And so we decided that we wanted to expand it, and we couldn't really expand REO Tour Group. That was just our little crew. So what we decided to do was build default servicing professionals and build a bigger network so we could do the same thing with more people. The traveling was getting real expensive. So Jesse and I really built it just to offset our costs for all the travel we were doing and all the entertaining we were doing, because it got really pricey. So we decided to just keep doing it, because nobody was really competing. Like, nobody was going to come in for San Diego, and nobody's going to come to Vegas, right? Because we're a very exclusive network. We didn't want to be like NRBA or US REO Partners or all these other networks that would have thousands of members. We didn't want that. We wanted a very tight-knit group of people. We were less than 100, even at our largest. So we're a very small, exclusive network that we exchange contacts with one another, because we're not worried about them competing with us, right? We're not worried about somebody sharing information that I have for Vegas with another Vegas agent, because there's no other Vegas agents in DSPros.
It's a networking group with exclusive areas. In some larger markets, we'll have 2 per area, but it allows people to share contacts. And really, I mean, we talk REO best practices, but mainly we're talking contacts. And exactly, I think it was Todd asked the question of how do you expand your contacts? I would say you do it through leveraging relationships. And the way I've always done it is by leveraging relationships through an actual formal networking group. Mm-hmm. You don't need to join DSPros. You can go out and try to make friends with, other REO brokers and agents and look around and see, who do I find these people? But if you want to join a group where it's already been put together for you, here are people who are very experienced at REO that have contacts, and then you can apply to join our group, right? That's why we keep the group going all these years later, even though there's not that much REO right now. Mm-hmm. Even in the years before when there wasn't REO, is because there's still always a little bit of REO.
There'll be more coming up.
Well, that's why and now we're starting to see more people joining our group again, because it's starting to come back up, and people want to get in and secure their territory, right? Before someone else does, so that they can start. You got to be an experienced REO agent. If you have no experience, you can still apply, and we'll screen you and see, because we want to get the right people that are a fit for our group, though, to help. You got to be able to share contacts and feel comfortable networking with these people.
Yeah, Alan makes a good point. There's always REO, yes, sometimes more than other times, but that's where we're heading into with a time with more REO. So there's a couple more questions here that I want to go with, and then I'll go back to you guys. Linda is saying, do you have to put money up front to prepare the house and then get paid back by the REO company? So let me just expand on the question so that you guys can answer it fully. What are the costs involved starting off as an REO agent? Is it all just money coming out and no money coming in? What does that look like? What do we need to be prepared for?
It depends on the client, right? And again, they change all the time too. So a lot of clients will have you pay for the rekey of the property. If it's vacant, they pay you, you know, they'll reimburse you. So you submit for reimbursement, but you pay for it up front, for the rekey, for the lawn care, for, you know, power, water, sewer, trash, HOA. I mean, you pay for that up front in a lot of cases. In some cases, they take care of everything. I mean, so it just depends on the client.
Yeah.
Okay.
At one point, there was a client who was asking you to submit your financials to verify you had a certain amount of money in reserves for each listing they were going to assign you. And I don't remember the figure they were using, if it was a couple $1,000s per listing, I believe, that they wanted you to have, because you do end up fronting some money. It's a very front-loaded business where when you get a property assigned to you to sell, it goes through a few phases. It might be occupied to start with. You might have to go through evictions to get someone out, but you might not be selling this property for, you know, 3 to 6 months to a year. I've had some that I've babysat for 2-3 years, and you're going out to look at it every week, every couple of weeks, to do your inspections, whatever the client's procedures are. So you're spending either time and or money, right? And someone's asking, are all accounts the same? Not at all. Every account or every client has very different guidelines. And so when David said he used to work with 26 different accounts, that's 26 different clients. And even within some of those, they have different investors they handle that have all different procedures. It's very systematic, and you have to read all the instructions and know what you're doing. And yeah, you definitely gotta have some cash reserves to get into REO, or if you've done it before.
All right. Do you need to send that over to them so they can take a look and say, oh, we got you. We understand. Good. You're covered. Do they need to look?
No, in general, that was like one client, I think, out of the years that ever asked to see financials, which I thought was pretty smart, but most companies don't. They just assume that you know what you're getting yourself into.
All right.
I never got asked for financials.
Never. All right, cool. All right. So then when it comes to what you guys have built here is really a group of professionals that are going to be servicing the accounts that you guys have connections to. Is that how it kind of falls into it? Just short, sweet?
Partly, but as we grow our network with the right people, they also have accounts that we may not have relationships with. And then when they join, they kind of share their contacts with us so that we can get the accounts, and then also help whoever else needs that account in their market get that account too. And in exchange, we're giving them the contacts that we all have for the accounts that they need. So depending on who has more volume in your marketplace, right, then we'll figure that part out during our initial consultation, right? Figure out who has the volume in your marketplace, and then who has the contact for that, you know, who's the contact for that particular client, and then how do we get them introduced to that particular client. So we just shortcut the whole thing, because trying to figure it out on your own is next to impossible.
Sounds like you hacked the relationship part for me.
Yeah.
So it'll be much easier for me to get REOs this time around.
Oh yeah.
All right. I love that. So let me go to 2 more questions. Alan's got some experience here. Are you going to talk about the mental aspect of going to people's homes and letting them know that they are to be evicted? Alan, we're going to get to that towards the end. It's on my notes. So good one. Roxanne says, where do I send people to look for REO now? You know, that's a valid question. Do you guys have any place that, besides the MLS, is there a place where people should go visit?
I mean, almost all REOs at this point are listed through the MLS. So if your MLS offers a checkbox where you can say, you know, REO, you can look at, in some markets, HUD still has a lot of REOs, or at least limited. You can go to HUDhomestore.com is a website that lists the HUD foreclosures. There's a number of auction websites that list REO properties. But if you go onto like Zillow, for example, you're not going to see active REOs. Those are going to be ones that are potentially coming down the pipeline. It's a really frustrating way to, not to knock Zillow, but that's a frustrating way to go looking at the MLS is, I'd say, the best if you're looking to represent an investor by purchasing them.
Good. And then Todd Anderson says, why is 5-star a good convention to attend? How do I connect with each asset manager?
I mean, 5-star was kind of like the convention to go to, right? It was really 5-star and Rio Mac who were the two conventions that we really went to without fail. And then, you know, as the years went on, Rio Mac kind of lost a little bit of popularity. Would I be right in saying that, Jess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They lost a little popularity, and but still valuable, right? And we would go to 2 Rio Max a year and 1 5-star conference a year. And then the rest of the time we would spend visiting clients and doing, luncheons or happy hours or, breakfasts or whatever at their offices, that sort of thing.
All right. And if we're going into this and saying, okay, look, I want to be an REO agent, I'm going to go check out DSPros. And is the cost on there online for DSPros? Or do we have to apply, right?
I think you have to apply, but the cost it's $2,500 to join. That can be broken up over 6 months, and then $150 a month. And it's on purpose that if you're getting into REO, we want to have people that are committed entrepreneurs, that this is something that it takes some money to get into REO, right? It takes some commitment. The other thing we didn't touch on was when travel opens back up, it's highly recommended that you have the bandwidth and the funds to be able to do a little bit of traveling, to go meet clients and to go to conferences. You can build REO without ever getting on a plane, but it's a lot harder and a lot slower. It's much easier to build it face-to-face and build those relationships.
Cool. I love that. Mansoor Ahmed says, looks like relationship building is more important than money. Yeah, you know what? Possibly. Do you need to have a real estate license to be an REO agent, or can you have the rest of the team be the ones that have the licenses? How does that work? Have you guys seen anything different?
I mean, you can do business development for an REO team, but you got to have someone licensed to get. I mean, you're selling the property, so someone's got to have a real estate license.
Cool. Maybe I didn't understand the question, but I hope we answered it. Jay, what's up, Jay? Jay's asking, do banks these days want brokers to have appraisal license to do BPOs? That's a good question.
You can go ahead, David.
I would say not in most cases. I mean, if certain clients wanted that, then maybe, but not. I've never been an appraiser.
All right, cool. Very good. I don't think that's going to change either, because then if it's an appraiser, they have to pay them a lot more money than just a real estate agent that goes through and does a BPO. But good question.
Can I cycle back to the second half of Todd's question?
Yeah, go shoot.
Todd said, not only, first question was, is 5-star a good conference to go to? The second question was, how do you connect with asset managers there?
Yes. How do you connect?
Which is a more important question than where to go to, because frankly, at this point, 5-star is the only conference that's saying they're even happening in the REO space. But when you go there, how do you connect with asset managers? Because you've got all these people there, and it's like, how do you find them? How do you know who to talk to? How do you know who to say, what's important? And it really is overwhelming at first. It is. Like, that's why if you're getting into REO and you have no one guiding you, you're like, I don't know what to do, then it takes a while. You just kind of blindly bump into someone and strike up a conversation. That's why I think networking groups are so powerful, because they can make introductions for you, set you up, or at least point you in the right direction. Say, this person is important, go talk to them. This person is important. David, you want to chime in?
So before, during the last cycle, it was a lot easier, because when you would go to 5-star, we had blue badges and they had red badges. So you just go to the red badges. But then all the agents would just flock to the red badges, right? Because that's who was it. I mean, they were following them into the bathroom, slipping cards under the stalls, like, being all weird. But yeah, it was crazy. But that's how we would find red badges, and then we'd stay high, and we're like, where are you going? They'd be like, we're going here. You mind if we come with you? Sure. I mean, that's how we did it. That's how we met up. A lot of the people that helped us get more accounts. Because then when you meet one person that works at, let's just say, EMC or whatever, and then that person likes you and does business with you, she'll tell her friends in the industry that are also asset managers, hey, this is my guy in Vegas, or this is my guy in San Diego. So you get one client, it can turn into a whole bunch if you treat that client really right, very, very well, and you're good friends with them. So that's how we did it. Now it's way harder, because there's no color coded. They're like, forget that. We're not gonna do that. So it's a lot easier now if you go with other agents who have connections, right? You just get a group together of other agents that want to do the same thing, that already have REO, and just go with them, because they already know where to go. We throw parties at those events all the time. We're known for throwing the best parties in the REO space.
David, Tina just made me laugh. She said, hey, David, you own all the zip codes in Las Vegas. Great job. Do you need help?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I do.
That was good.
I'm not going to do REO in this next go around. So yes, Vegas is open because I'm no longer in sales. I'm just building my business, my EXP business. So
Yeah,
I'm not
so you can hit them up directly or just go to the link for the DSPros thing. So guys, with REOs, let's say happening a year from now or so, or whenever they happen, how do you anticipate it being different this time on ways for us to be able to break into this world? Do you still think it's the same as when it was when both of you started, or are there some changes that you think are going to happen?
David, you want to go?
I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot more hedge funds that have control of the assets. That's the main shift that I think is going to happen.
All right, and then with that, if that is the shift that's going to happen, how do we then approach these hedge funds? Do you envision it being the same route through going to these events, finding out who these asset managers are for the hedge funds, and then finding groups like yours, right?
Yeah. I mean, we still have a lot of contacts in the industry, and they kind of keep us abreast of what's going on and who's in control of what, and makes, they help us get introduced, because we're genuinely friends with these people. So, they help us out.
I mean, from that respect, I don't think anything will change, Tristan. I think some of the players will change, but the mechanism of who will still be really important. It is. So Todd had asked the question, I thought will tie into this, which is, has the window closed for new HUD and Fannie Mae brokers, which are two different separate accounts, by the way, of HUD and Fannie Mae. And is Fannie Mae looking for brokers all around the country right now? No, but HUD did just have one of its regions put out an application for a request for application for people. And I think it was like Wisconsin, Iowa, and forgetting which states, and that deadline through this company BLB, they were just looking for people to apply. So it's always a moving target, but knowing the people at these companies is the mechanism that you go through to pick up the account, no matter if it's a hedge fund or a bank, whoever has these properties, you've got to get to the decision makers. That's always the way I think it's going to work.
Yeah. One other thing we did very well was if our asset manager friend at, one REO company, if they lost their main account and then they had to downsize and let them go and they got fired, right? Then we would then come to play and go, okay, how do we get her hired somewhere else? Or how do we get him hired somewhere else? So we would help our asset managers get new jobs. And when they got the new job, then obviously who are they going to send their properties to? The person who hooked them up with the job. So we were always coming from contribution and adding value, trying to figure out how we can help other people. And I think that's what really helps us out a lot.
That makes a lot of sense, guys. So now we have some people wondering if their areas are open. So hold on, let me go through this. All right. Vegas is open, right? Obviously. I'm assuming part of Los Angeles is open because it's so massive. How can that ever be closed?
Are you covering all of Los Angeles, Tristan?
I'm not. I'm probably only going to, dude, I'm fair. I'm only going to cover a little bit of probably LA and maybe a little bit of Ventura. That's it.
Right. And that's the thing for our group. So we really have, again, because we do exclusive areas and we do at most 2 per area, you have in the world of REO, people tend to cover larger territories, but for the sake of our group, you have to limit the territory that you can represent DSPros in. That's how we end up getting our group to be able to share contacts. So the way Tristan's talking about it, it's that abundance mindset. Tristan's not going to cover all of LA County. That's a huge area for you to cover, Tristan.
Dude, it's massive. I would never cover it unless I was like every single brokerage at every corner, right?
I would say if you're interested in that, then submit your application and then put in the zip codes that you would like to have assigned to you. And keep in mind that we do about a 15 to 20 mile radius in most cases, right? Unless you're like, rural or something like that.
All right, perfect. So there's a few people who want in, guys, just apply there. So I think we've got about 10 minutes. So here's what I want to talk about for the last 10 minutes. So I want to touch on, here in my notes, it says, let's touch on how hard this is mentally. I don't think people ever talk about this, preparing for this mentally, because what you faced and the longer you've done this, you've gone through it even more, is just some backlash from people that are hurting, right? People that are right in the middle of the worst time that they've ever been through in their whole lives. And you face that, you're face to face with it. And also, how does that affect you keeping everything together and moving forward? Because it's got to affect you. I'm going to go to David because he's been doing this much longer. And then Jesse, because you're like the happiest guy I know, Jesse. So David, go.
So yeah, you got to prepare. I mean, for me, it's always been, personal development work. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I've done every single thing he's done. Graduate from different, Rapport Leadership International, stuff like that. You got to be, you got to read, you got to work on yourself. You got to have empathy for people. You got to know how to communicate. There's a time where I would knock on a door and a tenant would open the door and I would tell her what's going on. And she just, falls to the floor, breaks down in tears. I just paid my rent yesterday. Right. I'm like, well, unfortunately your landlord hasn't been paying the mortgage for the past however many months and the property is in foreclosure now. So we have to figure out a way for you to move. So what the banks do in most cases is offer a cash for keys, right? So where we say, okay, listen, we're going to give you 30 days to stay in this home and we're going to offer you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, right? As compensation for you to find a new place to move to, right? So it's kind of like, it's coming from a place of like, okay, we're going to help you. We're going to help you get into a new place, right? Not just we're kicking you out. Good luck. So the cash for keys is presenting the cash for keys is crucial for any property that you have occupied, because you have to talk to these people who are very distressed, and you have to communicate to them in a way that they can understand. Because they're going to try to ditch you, avoid you, not answer you, whatever. You got to come from a place of like, listen, I'm trying to help you here. This is what's going to happen, and they're going to come and we're going to come and lock you out if you don't listen to me and help and do this the easy way, right? Like, let's figure this out for you and your family so we can get you into a new place. So yeah, you got to have empathy. You got to have a big heart, care about people, if you want to do this successfully and actually come, because somebody's got to do the work, right? I mean, we're not the bad guys here. We're just, this is an opportunity and somebody's going to do the work. So might as well be somebody that can do right by people and help them.
Yeah, good question. I'll go to you, Jesse, but Jay has a really good comment that I wanted to add. It's on Facebook. It says, Jay Lieberman's my friend out here in Westlake. He says, I got to ask, are we competing against slimy agents paying off asset managers, or are there laws in place for that these days?
Well, there's always been laws in place for that. And if you Google it, you will find a couple of people that did go to jail because of it. So are you competing against it? I would say probably less today than many, many years ago when it was the Wild West and the industry was growing so quickly. Does it still happen? Honestly, I can't. I would say I'm probably, and any time there's an opportunity, there's people who take advantage of it. It has to, but I doubt it's happening in the same way it used to long ago. It really is solidified more into like, relationships are important, but you got to be ethical and think long-term in the decisions you're making, right? That's why I said, check the rules of your company. I guarantee there's no companies out there that allow you to send cash in an envelope. True story, that happened. to a servicing company that some broker sent in a envelope full of cash and said, it blows your mind, right? So, we might want to do another webinar, Tristan, to get into some, we're running.
Well, I want to do another webinar and then I'll let you answer your portion of what I asked David.
Okay.
The second webinar will be more on the process. Like, okay, I'm going to get REOs, right? What's the process of a short sale and what's the process of an REO? Just so that I understand it from the very beginning and to the end. But Jesse, let's go to you. How did you maintain a positive mindset through this whole process?
It's hard sometimes. It is. I think, like David said, you have to focus on what you believe you're doing that is good, right? That these are people that you feel bad for their situations. Without a doubt, I do. I'm a very empathetic person. Right now, what's going on in the economy and everything with coronavirus, there's a moratorium on foreclosures. So they're not foreclosing. So there are times when it's right in, a couple of years from now, if there are people that still aren't on their feet financially, how long do you allow someone to stay in a house without paying their mortgage? is that up for me to make a decision? I mean, we have structures and rules in place. And frankly, the timeline is pretty darn long in most states. In some states, it's quick. Some states it's, but in the average state, I mean, in California, I'm talking to people that haven't made a mortgage payment in a year or two sometimes, right? Do I feel empathetic? 100% I do. I absolutely. So I will tell everyone watching this, if you haven't done REO before, REO is not for everybody. But if you've done it before, you at least and you just have to look on the positive, and you end up having a little bit of you have to know that if someone hasn't made their mortgage, it's actually better for the economy to help them transition to another place, like David was saying. That's how I would always look at it.
Yeah. Then they get a fresh start. We help them get a fresh start.
Right.
Because they're stuck in this like rut in this house, and they're scared they're going to get locked out. Once they get into their new place and they're moved in, and they can get a fresh start. And a lot of times they, some of these guys that are owners, not the tenants, the ones that own the property, haven't made mortgage payments in a while. They've been saving that money too, right? So they're pocketing and they're ready to go on to the next phase of their life. The tenants, I feel way more empathy for, because the tenants that just paid their rent and then they're getting kicked out, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, anything in closing here? Because I
want to end on a downer. You don't want to end on a downer like that?
Yeah, I don't want to end up. Well, it's reality, dude. Come on.
I cry myself to sleep a lot of nights. What do I want to end on? It's a systematic business. I think the other way that it really does work for me, and for David as well, like David said, he never did traditional business. Selling REO is really for entrepreneurs. It's people who like the system. Like if you got into real estate because you want to help people accomplish their dreams and watch their faces, they get their first house, that's not REO. It's not. It's the other end of the spectrum. This is a systematic, leveraged, task-based business that the benefits of it are it scales, right? You end up getting to run it like a true business, whereas some real estate agents never really get their time back. So you get back a little bit of time in terms of, like, David is a master of leveraging through people. One of my superpowers is leveraging through systems and learning how to build duplicatable things that then they just function and they run. That's really something there. I'd say that's how I'd wrap up. David, you want to wrap up on Todd's last question? It's a really good way to wrap up.
I just want to say it's really fun to wake up in the morning and have 4 new listings in your email. I mean, that to me is way more fun. Like, I just go entertain clients and build relationships, and then the listings just come, right? I don't have to go on listing appointments. So to me, that was my favorite part of the REO thing.
Yeah, I love it. And we didn't talk about how when this was all over, Jesse went on vacation for a year, right? Oh, yeah. So we didn't even talk about all the good stuff that happened too. So let's leave that for part 2. And somebody had a good question, Todd, also great questions, Todd. But to wrap it up, can you guys summarize what the membership does for you? Not for you, but for anybody wanting to join. What's that?
So if people are interested in joining DSPros, I'd say go apply on the website. You have to apply. We screen everybody who joins, again, because we're looking for the people that are a good fit for our organization. We have once a week, every Friday morning, we do an REO mastermind call on Zoom, just like this. Or if you're watching on Facebook, it's on Zoom. And we talk about what's happening in the world of REO, right? We talk about who's assigning, who's not. We sometimes have guests. They have asset managers who are guests who join on those calls. So it's a way that without traveling, you can still get some face-to-face time with them. Then you get connected to the other members of the group, which the power is the group itself. Any networking group, the power is the group. David and I will do an REO consultation with you and figure out where the opportunities are in your market. And then in terms of figure out, let's make some strategic next steps as to who do you need to be connected with? How can we help connect you? Or is there someone else in the group that can help connect you? From there, you get guides when we go to these events. And when travel opens up again, we just haven't been doing it obviously lately because no one's traveling, but we do have members and we do ourselves. We travel, we go visit clients still. That will continue to be more and more, right, as this goes forward. And is there anything I'm missing, David?
No, I mean, when you get properties assigned from a new client, you don't really know what their procedures are. You can always call us or call the member that has the greatest amount of volume there and ask them, hey, the client just sent me this and this and this. What do I do? Because you don't want to be asking the client, well, what do you mean by this? And how do we do that? So you ask us, And then when you're communicating with your client, you already look like the professional who knows everything, even though you might just be like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So you call us and we kind of help you figure that part out too. So you look like a rock star to the clients, and then we again look like a rock star for bringing them high quality agents, right? Because that's our thing. Like, we have to bring high quality agents. If we don't, then we lose our reputation,
Right.
which is why we reject half of our applications.
Right. If you're a bad agent, don't apply.
Yeah.
That's kind of tough because everybody thinks they're a good agent.
Some know they're.
All right, guys. So in 2 weeks, or maybe around there, 2 weeks, 10 days, 14 days, let's talk about the REO and short sale process. You guys down with that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. If the email does not, if the website, the DS Pros website doesn't work for you on your end for any reason, you want to email info@dspros.com. And that's DSPros plural with an S.com.
Yeah.
Info@dspros.com.
And if they're watching this on Facebook, I mean, you can hit up any of us on Facebook, obviously. So you see them, right? Jesse Zagorsky, David Golden, Tristan, you can email, message any of us.
Yep. Love it. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, David.
Good to see you, Tristan.
Bye, guys.